Hi guys, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and today I'm going to be talking about a difficult book and a difficult subject. So this isn't necessarily just a review of the book, but also a discussion of it. So just kind of warning going in, it's going to get uncomfortable and it's going to be possibly triggering for some of you. And that book is I Stop Somewhere by T.E. Carter. I will leave the synopsis in the description as well as links to the book, and I'm going to warn you now, I'm not avoiding spoilers in this because I want to actually discuss it. This book deals with rape and rape culture and violence, and if you don't want to hear about those things or you don't want spoilers, you probably want to go ahead and click out of this video. I'm also going to let you know I'm going to write a blog post to go along with this video because I know there are going to be things I want to say that I'm going to forget to, or I'm not going to say in the way that I want to, and there are going to be things I want to add to the discussion without making this an hour-long video. So I will link the blog post that goes along with it if you want to hear more of my thoughts or add your own. But I'm going to get straight into it, and I am going to start off with a quick review of the mechanics of the book. So in case you're looking for just the review part, I'll get that out of the way and you can avoid the spoilers and everything else. So for the most part, I loved this book. I rated it 5 stars unreservedly. I shouldn't say unreservedly, there were some reservations, but just for how it handles and approaches such a difficult topic and presents it, it was just a 5-star for me. Mechanically though, I had some issues. So in the writing, there were some pet peeves of mine that might bother other people. I understand why she employed these things. That didn't mean they got on my nerves any less. So there is a tendency in the writing to have very short, staccato, flat sentences, and that sounds kind of weird, I'm sure, but kind of personless, emotionless presentation, and I think that makes sense for where the book starts and the trauma that the main character has gone through. It kind of gives you this feeling of shut down. So I understand that, but it makes it a little less engaging to read because naturally, when your brain reads this sameness over and over, you start to just kind of tune it out and to get a little bored by it, and you want to kind of skip forward. I did find myself wanting to just like push through. That is compounded by the fact that she does talk in circles a bit. The narrator, and through her, the writer, talks in circles a bit and keeps covering the same ground, and just, it's a slowly widening circle. So she starts out around this little point and then she'll circle back to it and circle back to it and just get a little wider and a little closer to the point she's trying to make every time. Again, I understand it as a tool to kind of convey how the character is feeling, thinking, how she's dealing, but that doesn't make it any less annoying. You know, you just want her to get to the point sometimes. So between the sameness in the style, the actual mechanical sentence structure, and the sameness in the telling of it, that can kind of bog the book down a little bit, especially in the beginning. Beginning and middle, there were times when I just wanted to be like, just get to the point, Ellie. Even if you understand why she's doing it, it can be frustrating. Partly I think it's done to build suspense because in the beginning you don't quite know entirely what was going on with the character. You have your suspicions, but nothing has been confirmed yet, and she kind of dances around things to keep it that way and to keep you a little bit on your toes and a little bit questioning, when honestly I think it would have been better just to be straightforward. You pretty much can guess what's happening from the beginning anyway, so just go there, you know? Beyond that, it is unrelenting and brutal and raw and heartbreaking and unlike a lot of what is out there, and that's probably all I can really say and still avoid spoilers. So if you wanted to not have the book or the discussion of the sort of trauma, now would be the time to click away. For those of you that are staying, I'm just going to come right out with it. From here on, it is spoiler city. Seriously, I'm not holding anything back. Okay, so Ellie, the main character, essentially has never really fit in, is kind of a wallflower, feels very overlooked and forgotten, and it makes her vulnerable and it makes her prey to someone she thought she could trust, and someone who was her apparent boyfriend, who eventually, along with his brother, brutally and multiply rapes her and eventually kills her. The book is narrated by Ellie's ghost, who is seeing these things happen over and over again. And though more girls aren't being killed, she's seeing the same patterns. They keep bringing these girls to this house, they keep going through the same motions, raping these girls in the same way over and over and over. And she's seeing them, parts of them die, even if all of them isn't dying. And so through them, she's kind of confronting what happened to her and trying to work out in her head almost her own complicity. She looks back on things and thinks, should I have seen the signs? Was I a fool for going along with them? Was I a fool for thinking that I wanted to be with him? So you're getting the reveal of the story, and you're getting closer and closer to, are these guys going to get caught? Are they going to actually face justice? At the same time that you're getting Ellie's coming to terms with what has happened to her and revealing what has happened to her and just how bad it was. On that level, that is what kind of makes the mechanical things that I didn't like work, because it is more of a reveal, and you get to feel for Ellie and sort of build your own world and think, okay, well, she was probably assaulted. Okay, maybe the assault was worse than I thought it was. Okay, the assault was way worse than I thought it was. And you keep getting these building levels that just, every time you think you've sort of hit the bottom and been gutted for the last time, you're gutted one more time. And I think that is really, really effective. I also think that Ellie herself, and the way it's presented, the way she looks at her story, the way she can, as a ghost, can hear what is being said about her and what is being done about her and how her body was treated, how she was treated, how her news story is treated, versus what actually happened. It kind of makes her this everyman insert. She's every woman. You get to, through her, you recognize these things that you see in the news all the time. You see it in the news all the time. You see these things happen and then get analyzed to death, and the girls get torn apart. Every little thing they've ever done gets judged and questioned of, well, did they actually want it? Was she, I mean, she was wearing that, so she must have wanted it on some level, right? Is she just regretting? Is this, she wants to be the good girl, she doesn't want her parents to know? You get all of these questions in every case like this, in the media, from friends, from family, from neighbors, from strangers, all the fucking time. Like, we all see it. We know that this is why women don't come forward. And when they do come forward, finally, they know that this is what they're going to get. And it never fails. Timing-wise, this was an interesting read for me because I was reading it in the middle of the Harvey Weinstein scandal and the Me Too campaign, and also just after a Dateline episode had come out about a rape and murder in my own backyard. I mean, seriously, I go down the road every day that a woman went missing on, and when her killer was found, and when he immediately confessed and then tried to walk it back and say that he was just nervous and hungry and didn't know what he was saying, the very first thing that happened, predictably, was his lawyer tried to frame it as consensual. Apparently she wanted to be choked and have her face smashed in. So, reading this, having just come off of that kind of local personal story, and during the Me Too, and during all of these women coming forward and seeing all of the comments online of people tearing them apart and saying, well, why did they wait? They just wanted money. They were actresses, so they were probably sleeping their way to the top. Just comments more vile than a normal person can even dream up themselves. Reading it during the midst of all of that, and during the midst of conversations with people close to me about their own assaults and harassment, it made this book incredibly, it made it incredibly real and incredibly painful to read. And there were actually times that I had to stop. Like, I just had to put it down for a few days and walk away and just, like, clear my head of it. For all of its occasional mechanical flaws and slight sensationalization, it feels like one of the most honest, truest things I've ever read. And that's really sad. And that is really sad. I think the relentlessness of it is what does it. Because you see this, especially in this day and age, every website ever rehashes every story in the most minute and horrifying detail, and we take too much of that in. It becomes this constant barrage of the horrors of humanity, and that takes a toll on you. And so getting to know Ellie and who she is, who she had the potential to be, and then seeing that torn apart, and then after her death even further dissected and degraded, and in the way it comes out. So again, major spoilers here, but in the end of the book, someone comes forward and gets the ball rolling, and these two boys go on trial basically. And again, you have that extra layer of how everything is going to be torn apart, everything's going to be framed as she wanted it, and it was just rough, it just got out of hand or whatever. And she brought it on herself, you know, she wasn't a good girl. It's her fault. She should have known better. Boys will be boys. And in the end, one of the boys basically shoots himself in the foot and reveals something he shouldn't have. And so they do end up being convicted of her murder, but they're found not guilty of her rape. The jury buys that she wanted it. Which makes some of the other accusers back down, because they think, what's the point? She fucking died, and it still wasn't enough to believe her as a victim. And that feels so damningly true. So yeah, in the blog post, because I clearly can't keep it together in the video, I had thought about recording this the minute that I finished the book, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I should have been in bed well before then, and knew I wouldn't be able to keep it together, so I thought, well, if I wait a couple weeks, that was clearly inaccurate. So in the blog post, I want to talk more about the actual breakdown of these things and how this felt like such an accurate and visceral and harrowing response to just like every aspect of rape culture. But basically this book will just gut you, and I'm sure that there are people that will read it that would still just cannot ever empathize with who they should empathize with, and who cannot ever stop blaming the victim. I'm sure that there are people that will read this, or will watch this, or will know what it's about, and still say, well, alright, I filled my card, and the camera's dying, so I think I should probably go ahead and just wrap this up. I think I was talking about how there are still people that are going to basically contribute to the rape culture. There's still people that are going to victim blame, even reading this, even until it happens to them or someone they know, and sometimes even then. We just saw Gabby Douglas do it when people were coming out against the Team USA doctor and saying that they were molested. And Gabby talked about dressing modestly, and then within days she came out saying that she had also been molested. We're going to continue to see these things. It's going to take, I don't know if it could ever be dismantled. There will always be people that will internalize their own pain and consider themselves complicit for someone else's ills. And there will always be people that will just never take accountability for anything that they do. And people who will refuse to see the bad in someone that they like because they don't want to lose their fave, and they don't want to have to analyze their own mixed emotions, or if they missed something. Was there something that they should have saw in that person that they didn't, and what does that mean about them? There will always, always be people making this harder than it needs to be, and more heartbreaking than it needs to be. And I think this book does a really good job of holding up a mirror and reflecting that. I don't think it's a book for everyone. I think if you do have any of this type of trauma in your life, you need to know what type of person you are going in before you read this. If you're easily triggered, or if you have PTSD or anything like that, like, just don't do it to yourself. If you think you would find it cathartic with your own pain, or if you think it would help you relate, or if you've had your own questions about rape culture, about victim blaming, about what it all means, if you want to empathize, if you want to understand, I think it's worth picking up. I think it's vital. Even. I think it is a conversation starter, and it's a conversation that needs to happen. We keep hashtagging people's names and say her name and remember her, and then they fall off the map and their place is taken by someone else, and it just is an endless cycle. And the bad guys just keep walking away, or asking for their sentences to be overturned, wanting to get on with their bright futures, wanting to go eat steak and have fun swimming and not have their life ruined over 10 minutes of fun or whatever the fuck Brock Turner's dad said. These conversations need to happen. I think this is a very timely book. Obviously, T. Carter couldn't have seen the Me Too campaign and the Harvey Weinstein campaign coming because the book was already written, arcs were already out when all of that broke, and it's still going on, it's still evolving, where people are coming forward daily about different people and finding their voice, and that's excellent. We're also seeing more pushback with people saying, well, why are you just not coming forward? Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. She kind of, I don't even want to say lucked into the timeliness, because I think no matter when this book had been released, there probably would have been something going on. There would have been someone hashtagged on Twitter that had been gang raped by a football team, or kidnapped and held hostage, or whatever the case may be. There's always something. It always would have been timely, but right now, it's part of a bigger conversation, and it contributes greatly to that conversation, and I cannot recommend enough that people read it and talk about it. So, there's a bit of a different video for you. As I said, I'm going to write a blog post to go along with this. It will probably be an evolving blog post as I think of more things to say, as more things happen that I want to link to, or as people bring up points or give recommendations of other things that are great books to read or resources on this topic. I will try to keep adding them. So I will leave it linked. Check back. If you have something to contribute, please do so. I will leave resources in the description here, in the comments, on the blog post, just everywhere, in case you need them, whether you're ready to speak up or not, whether you want to just forget and move past your own trauma. Know that there are people here for you. Know that you have somewhere to turn, and know that it's okay to stop blaming yourself and take your own power back. Like, seriously, man or woman, child or adult. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. So, kind of a weighty one. Sorry guys, it's also probably a very long one, but that's all for now. As I said, the description, links to a bunch of things will be, the synopsis and links to a bunch of things will be in the description, so you can find out all of that there, as well as the blog post, which will probably be a very long one, but that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching, and happy reading!